right?
Yeah, now I'm filming. Yeah.
I see that. Very good. All right. Thank you, Holger. Thank you very much for attending today. We have prepared a couple of questions in advance and would like to interview you today on your life as an entrepreneur and to provide our audience a couple of some ideas of how an entrepreneur develops his ideas or how an everyday life in the life of an entrepreneur looks like, and therefore, as I said, we would like to interview you today. And the first question we would like to know is, what is your life story?
Thank you very much, Luca. Very big question. What's my life story? But maybe I can try to break it down and focus on the entrepreneurial part.
Sure.
So I think overall, I started my entrepreneurial journey on the continent, more precisely back in South Africa, after which I moved up to Zimbabwe and Zambia. Where I started seeing opportunities for me to venture into, which at that time were selling phones in order to finance my studies. And I think with that experience in mind and being a Africa optimist, I then ventured into more broader areas of business. Right now, I am working with a Pan-African market advisory firm, and a similar thing drove me into it, simply seeing the need of support for firms and institutions who are looking to do business on the continent. So I think overall, it's very much been opportunistically driven, my journey so far. By trade, I'm actually a wholesaler, so that's the journey how I started, let's say, back then. And after that little detour, how I would call it these days, I then very quickly ventured into business opportunities on the African continent. And I mean, there are several other smaller ventures that I started. One is real estate in South Africa. The other one is a hair business in Kenya. We're currently looking into manufacturing in the East African region as well. So I believe there's much more to come. But again, everything based on the opportunities the markets provide to us.
Interesting. Thank you very much. But one question arises when I hear that. So what basically motivated you to start your first or your own business in general?
Well, I think overall it all started with the excitement and the passion to do something, right? Which you eventually can call your own. And quite frankly speaking, in the beginning, it probably was quite naive in terms of how I approach things and so on. And then more and more, you know, I got into it. You learn your trade, you do your mistakes. Some mistakes definitely lead you to avoid other mistakes and so on and so on. So I think that's really how I got into it. And I think overall it's just a pure fascination of the opportunities that we see here on the African continent.
And how did you then develop your business idea? You said you have a couple of businesses going, but basically you are in the consulting business. And how did you develop this business idea, basically?
Well, I wouldn't call it a business idea. I think it's more, I saw the lack in the market, right? And I've worked in a similar position before, and I just realized where we can tap into. So I wouldn't call it, I mean, I think often entrepreneurs mistake saying, oh, you need an idea and then you develop it. I think it's more listening to the market. And then based on that, you learn your trade and you move in. And ideally, you somehow succeed in what you do.
Amazing.
Okay. Yeah, amazing. And I think another question would be, why have you been so successful?
I wouldn't say so successful. I would say we are far away from being very successful. But I think overall, I would probably substitute the word successful with being persistent, right? So throughout, I've been persistent in pursuing what I'm doing right now. I strongly believe in what I'm doing over here, and I think that led me now to the position where we're at. But you know, the word success is sometimes a little bit overrated, I believe. But overall, I think I'm happy in what I'm doing, and if you call that success, then I will leave it there.
Yeah, all right. And so what kind of skills do you think that are important in your life?
I think that also depends on from how you look at it, right? So is it skill sets that you need to be an entrepreneur, or is it skill set you need in my industry? I think if I look at the consulting industry, I think we're very much about being analytic, being able to contextualize, being straightforward, and thinking beyond the box that a lot of clients are in. Because one thing in our markets here on the African continent is that nothing is set in stone. Everything is very much in the making. So you need a high level of flexibility. And I think looking into the entrepreneurial world, it's a similar thing, right? You have to be very flexible. You have to be also able to take a lot of downs where things do not work out, but still at the same time, be strong enough to not lose the vision and why you're doing what you're doing.
Very interesting, very interesting. So you would say those were the skills that brought you here as well, or were the different skills that have been important so far?
I would say pretty much yes. So I mean, of course, skills is something you sort of accumulate over the years, right? So if I look at my studies, of course, certainly that's where I learned how to research properly or how to structure reports and whatever it is. And then you have your soft skills, which I think you cannot learn; you can only enhance them, because I think a lot of them are given. But if you know your weaknesses, that's I think when you then move into trying to develop or using skills to counter your weaknesses. And I think if you're aware of that, I guess that's probably then how I used the skill set that I had or developed over the years to be now where I am.
Okay, that's some good advice. Thank you. Therefore, we talked a little bit about it, but we did not yet really specify it. So, in which kind of business are you directly operating in for our audience to let it know?
Yeah, so the main business for me is Africa, and we are a Pan-African advisory firm focusing on supporting our clients to access African markets and to ensure that we can accelerate Africa's potential. So we offer, or we're in the field of a market entry. So we offer the entire value chain of a market entry for our clients. That often starts with the collection of primary data on the ground. It can go up to connecting businesses to others here on the continent. It then goes on to helping them to establish their operations. We do a lot of feasibility studies, and then also we support them once they decide they want to venture into a market, and help them to grow in the market. So I think that is the area that we're in. So it's all about advisory and consulting. And we're operating out of 4 African markets, which are Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, and Ghana. That's where we are fully set up. And then from there, we operate within the region and use those 4 locations as our hubs.
And is there a certain industry that those companies which want to enter the market are in, or is it just everything that you get, so to say?
Yeah, it's throughout. So of course, I mean, if you look on the structure of our clients, where they're coming from, a lot of them are Europeans, from North America, some are from Asia, and usually they are one way or the other manufacturers, right? And that means they work in the sectors of food and beverage, agriculture, logistics, oil and gas, resources, and so on. But overall, we support the entire industry. We just got our first project in the finance sector the other day, where I never thought we actually do business in. But we look at the opportunity, what's the demand of the clients, and then decide whether or not we can create any value to them.
All right. Now the question arises. What or how do you choose from the given possible clients you might get, who you're taking or who you're serving?
So usually we look into, can we deliver what the client demands, right? So usually we look at it at a case by case. We then see, do we have the in-house capacity to deliver on the project scope? And if we don't, we check, are we able to bring on external consultants and experts into the project? And if everything here is on green, we then go for the project, right? So usually, as I said, it's a very individual approach. It's all about, can we create value or not?
Thank you very much. Lutong, would you like to go on?
Okay, and yeah, so you have already talked about some specific markets that you are focusing on, and also some special industries. And are there any challenges when you operate in this market?
Absolutely. Every day is a challenge in any of the markets. So there are, market dynamics that you might not be able to oversee, or you might underestimate when you move into markets. Certainly, there are challenges. It can be things like language, even. So if you look into a market entry project, usually you start off by getting an understanding of what the market environment is like. And that's already then when you start foreseeing challenges the client might have or we might face when we do our research. Certainly one thing for us is always data collection. Data or qualitative data is hardly available on the continent. And that means you're relying on interviews. And if you rely on interviews, you always have to make sure that you actually get to the right person to talk to and ask the right questions, right? So it's challenging throughout. The market environment is not really on our side most of the time, but I think that's where it gets very exciting, to solve those problems and to create the actual value to the client overall.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, because as an entrepreneur, you should face all kinds of challenges. And so, speaking of entrepreneurship, so what does it mean to you?
I think I wouldn't, maybe I go as far. I would say it's a life choice, right? I don't think you decide to become an entrepreneur. I think you start walking and you realize you're on the entrepreneurial path. So to me, what does it mean? I think it means a lot of independence. That's one. It also means a lot of sweat and tears because there's no safety net or anything. You're basically on your own. And at the same time, it also means that it opens a whole lot of opportunities, which of course can be challenging or are challenging. But if you get it right, you just realize everything is possible. It's just about do you hit the right buttons and do you have the stamina to go the long way? Because I think a lot of people mistake entrepreneurship with like that cool thing you just go out and do, and then after you become employed because you didn't make it. Those people, in my opinion, are trying but are not really dedicated, or might not be the classical entrepreneur, but that really depends on the case. But I think for me, I said entrepreneurship, it's a choice that I wasn't aware of made, I think, and eventually you grow into it.
Okay, yeah, that's.
Do you have any tip for someone who is not sure about whether he or she is suitable? How to, identify whether one is suitable for being an entrepreneur?
I think definitely try, fail, and see how often you're able to stand up. If you break down after the first fail, then go and get employed. I think that's the easiest way. It's all about failure. How often do you really fail? You'll not come up with that brilliant idea in the beginning. You'll not come up with that brilliant business case in the beginning. It's a process, right? And only if you're really able or willing to go that marathon, if you believe in what you do, no matter the consequences or the hurdles, I think then you realize you're made for it. So if that causes anxiety, or if you even get scared, don't waste your time. I mean, play around a little bit if you want, get that experience, but be very sure that you are more made for the corporate world than for the entrepreneurial world.
Yeah, so did you have a mentor, and do you think it's necessary to have a mentor?
Not really, I would say. I think certainly certain people influence me on the way. It's something I believe that I would have liked to have eventually, but it's also, to me, it's one of those fancy buzzwords that came up over the last 5 years, having a mentor. I think for young people, it's definitely advisable to find someone. But also, I strongly believe that you can't go out shopping for a mentor. A mentor finds you, and it's not about something you can take from the shelf, if I may call it that way. It's very much about the relationship that you are creating, and based on that, you listen, right? You ask questions, and if you get good feedback, I believe that's then called mentorship.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, as we have already know that to be an entrepreneur is something that really challenging. So every day, maybe an entrepreneur will encounter insecurities and uncertainties. So do you have any tips for maybe for young people to cope with uncertainties and uncertainties, insecurities?
Well, I think overall, relax. If you really believe in what you do, I strongly believe the market will give you that positive feedback. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but the day after tomorrow. And so if you're ready to go that long, extra mile, I think then it's worth it, right? But I think every person is different, and every person reacts differently in certain situations. I think in the end, it all comes down to confidence. Are you ready to stand for what you do? Are you ready to sacrifice? And particularly financially. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs then start going back to the safe haven of being employed, because let's not get it twisted. The majority of entrepreneurs struggle financially heavily, and that's, I think, one of the key reasons why people give up, because they simply do not find the funds, or their business model is not strong enough to create revenue from day one. And I think a lot of the young entrepreneurs think, I go and source for funding, and that pays my salary. Trust me, to me, that is nothing else than being employed. someone else still tells you what you have to do. It's not yours. If you create a business model that doesn't create revenue, then I don't understand why people believe that is entrepreneurship, right? Certainly, yes, I agree. In order to scale, that is something where you need probably external funding to be able to really now break through. But don't expect that you start something built on someone external giving you money. That is called employment, in my opinion.
Very, 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 very nice advice. I haven't thought about this so far, but you're completely right. So something a little bit more related to the business plan you are doing, but everyone is going with. You especially, do you rely on marketing, or is your personal network the way to go?
Both. Marketing is now a level that we could introduce due to the level we reached. Right before, I think marketing is very much down to the means that you have to reach people. But I also strongly believe it's about telling people about what you do, because you can be the best developer or the best whatever in what you do. If no one listens to you, you will never make it. Right. So that means it's very important to build networks, in my opinion. From our side, we generate a lot of business from direct networks because they believe in what we do, or they engage with us in the past, or they know people behind the scenes. So I think networks are key, and that's how you probably also start. But then once you reach a certain level, you start to try to professionalize your marketing efforts in order to not depend as much on networks, because also easily networks can let you down. If you see what happened about a year ago with the start of the pandemic, you could have the best network, but everyone was very much looking at themselves first, right? And then after, networks came back to build you. But so it's very much a mixture, and for us, it's also pretty much a mixture. We're trying to get stronger on the marketing end, because I believe that will sustain the growth, because networks are limited. But again, I strongly believe in networks. I mean, LinkedIn is my best friend when it comes to connecting. But also, let's not get it twisted. When it comes to an online connection, is only an online connection. Unless you met someone in person, or now we have the beauty of the calls, it is just another number in your LinkedIn connections. It doesn't mean anything unless the person, you call the person and he knows your name and who you are. That's a connection. That's a network. Everything else, just another number on your fancy profile.
Sure, you're absolutely right. But there was a question from our community on this, from our students, and they wanted to know, how do you do it? How do you connect? So you said online connections are one thing, but real connections are another thing. Maybe you can comment on both.
Yeah, sure. I think we live in an age where we are blessed when it comes to the opportunities for us in order to connect, right? So I mentioned the platform LinkedIn. It gives us the opportunity to reach people that you would never thought of before, right? And if I look at Afringa, it's the same. You reach people that you would never have reached before. So the age of you go into your neighbor and you connect, they're different. Of course, that is also an special thing in the entrepreneurial world. A lot of people work in co-working spaces. That's when, of course, you mingle. That's when you connect directly, right? That's where you have that beer together and so on. So if you mix the two, I think that can be quite powerful. But I think I usually strongly recommend people who particularly connect online to go the extra mile, right? I mean, don't force it. If you connect to someone who might be interesting, drop him a message saying, your profile looks interesting. This is what I'm doing. Maybe if you like it, we could have a chat for a few minutes. Or you follow people, you see where they're at. If they visit your town where you're based, reach out to them, say, hey, I'm around. Do you want to grab a drink or something like that? So it's pretty much, again, also a long-term investment, right? You're not gonna connect to someone and straight get something out of it. And I think that's also, I mean, if I see it with me, if people reach out to me and straight want to sell me something, I don't even connect. I have no interest in that. They're not interested in me. They're interested in themselves. So if you are aware of that, I think you can turn that around for your own benefit and ensure that you actually get something out of it.
So you would say it's no shame to simply find someone on LinkedIn and write to him or her, hey, let's meet. I have something to propose to you. Let's grab a drink and talk about it.
In a way, yes. Don't do it immediately, I would advise. It's a process again. You know, if you have someone that you've been following or you would like to get in touch with, connect with them, and don't connect just on a silent note, right? I mean, why should I press the accept button if I don't even know who you are or why you're contacting me? Unless you have a very fancy and interesting profile where I see, okay, that could be interesting, I would never accept. So it's, and then once you're connected, it's about touching base, right? Follow up. I mean, I also feel there's no harm in having a system in place, you know, where literally every 2-3 months you have a rotating contact cycle, you know, and even if you put it, I mean, you know, try that in your personal life. I mean, how many contacts do you have in your phone, right? Which are, I mean, they must have value to you because they're in your phone, right? And try to maybe get in touch with 5 people every week who you haven't been in touch with in the last 3 months and see the impact. It's powerful, right? People now see you actually interested in something or someone, right? And that creates, I think, very strong bonds and networks overall.
That's a great advice on the business and personal level as well. Maybe each of one should try that and reach out to someone we longer time didn't have contact with. Great. So Holger, so far you have made it through our our questions we prepared for you. Now, is there something you would like to share maybe with all our students, young entrepreneurs, or just also for sure the students who want to go to the corporate world, but all of them want to start a flourishing business, flourishing career? And is there something you would like to share with them?
No, I think overall, if you think about why people go into entrepreneurship or why you decide for the corporate world, I think it's all about trying, especially if you're young. I mean, you have enough time. There's no rush, right? So try. If you have the opportunity, just give it a go. If there's something that you always thought, oh, we should do that, or you see that's an opportunity, then just try it out. That way, I think you very much learn very quickly. If you like it, it's the same if you go into a job, right? If you move into a job for a reason and you don't just do it for the money, it's also trying, right? It doesn't mean you're going to be married with them forever, right? Do it for a period of time, do your best, learn from it, right? I think it's all about that learning experience, and then after some time, something, you know, what they call wisdom or whatever it is kicks in. It doesn't come from nowhere. It's really about try different things, and don't be afraid of also losing something, or you know, even just losing that other opportunity on the other side. At least you tried something. One thing though that I would definitely recommend: don't become what I would call a jumper. Don't just jump from A to B because maybe realize, oh, I don't like it, let me move to the next thing. It could work for some of them, but I think it's also important to learn to be persistent, right? If you chose that job for some reason, there's a reason why you chose it. As I said, if you not just chose it for the money, that's also what a lot of people do. So if it's something you chose, there's a reason. So don't give up after the first month because you don't like your colleagues or you don't like something. Maybe it's something you want to change, right? So I think the same happens if you decide to become entrepreneurial. Pretty much try. You know, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's not the end of the world. But of course, you see a lot of entrepreneurship comes from or it all roots in being desperate, right? Not getting a job and so on. If that's the case, I mean, try to see what have you gained over the last few years, and that's often maybe your tertiary education or secondary education. You might have some experiences here, and just assess what is it that you've done, what is it that you like. Maybe you can make something out of it. But if you just get into the entrepreneurial world because you're desperate and you don't know what else to do, it might not be the best motivation. So really think about why you do what you do, and have the guts to say no. This is how far I got here. It's been a good journey, but always, I usually tell people always make sure that when you leave or stop something, that you learn something. Don't just leave for the sake of leaving. So there's always a reason, or there's always something you can take out of that experience. And I think finally the most important thing is enjoy what you do, right? If you sit in the dark room for 24 hours a day, you're not going to be happy, so try to really enjoy what you do. Enjoy the ride. That's what they say when you go to the roller coasters. It might be hard, it might be upsetting for your stomach, but you go there for a reason. So usually there's no way out until you reach the finish line. So just enjoy the ride and make the best out of it.
Cool. Thank you very much. Lutong, did you want to say something?
I think, it is a really profound interview, and we have already got many insights. And I think both for us and our audience. So, both of us will get inspired from this interview, and to think about our future career. And I think the most important thing is that to find the reason why we do something and find the passion behind all of them. So basically that's what I would like to comment on this interview. And maybe Luca, if you want to add something.
Oh, just you said life is a roller coaster. Entrepreneurial life might be a steeper one, maybe. And now common sense is that people are feared from roller coaster rides. So have you ever been feared, or are you just super confident with everything you do?
No, I think everyone who goes for that bungee jump and tells you at the edge he's not scared is lying. So, and using that narrative, of course, there are moments where I'm scared, but I think what I've done quite well, I would say, over the last years, is not to let that moment of being scared determine where you go. So rather use it of having respect of what could go wrong, right? I think that might be the better word than being scared. The respect for what could go wrong. I think it's really what it's mostly for. I mean, overall, I would say that's at least what I hear from others who know me well. That's definitely I'm a risk taker. Usually think about the consequences once I've done it. So I think that some people call it a positive attribute, some people call it a crazy attribute. But I think if you're really scared of something, like deeply scared, then there's something wrong, right? And I think I've never really been that deeply scared when it comes to my professional career or my professional choices. It's more about having that very strong feeling of respect of what could go wrong. And as long as you're aware of it, you can work on it, right? And I think that's what it was all about. Because once you get fully scared, you have no control. And so once you end up having no control, then something needs to change, right? And I think looking into and being an entrepreneur, yes, of course, I'm scared saying, I don't know how the next 4 to 5 months are being financed, for instance. Do I have to let go of my stuff, right? I could be scared of it, but not in a way that I don't know how to get out of it, right? So it's more the respect and the obligations I have, which I'm very much aware of, and you try to find that solution instead of, being that what is that analogy, being that mouse in front of the cobra, right? If you just sit there and do nothing, nothing will change, right? So yeah, I think that's how I would answer if I've been scared. And yes, of course, I've been scared in a very aware state, I'd say.
But with your actual business, have you been at this point where you said, "Wow, I cannot go on here"? And I mean, you did, but have you been, well, just a step away from the breakdown already?
Yeah, absolutely. There are times when you take decisions and you think like, how the hell are we ever going to achieve that? And then that's the time when you have to really focus and really push for what you decided for. Of course, there are also moments when you think, oh, this is getting too much, or we're on the wrong track. But usually what I try to do then is, take a bit of distance, take a bit of time off, and think about it, and then come back stronger, really. And of course, also, I mean, from our side, what we do right now, we're in the service industry. So service industry is highly dependent on clients. And of course, there are times when you don't have enough clients, but you have your overheads and so on, and you build your company to the level where there are expectations, where there are obligations, and so on, where then you sit there and think, well, how are we going to manage, right? But then again, if you then give up, then you end up in employment again, and I don't want that. So I rather, spend a bit of time and see how can we get out of it. And so far, I mean, touch wood, it's been working. But for sure, one thing that you'll see, or let's say some individual entrepreneurs might not be aware of, is once you grow, that's when it becomes really difficult, even though everyone wants that. But the more you grow, the more responsibilities you have, the more structures you need to put in place, which carry on the foundation and so on. But then again, it's all about doing what you love and what you enjoy. And if that's the case, there's always a solution to whatever comes up.
Very, very good. Thank you very much. So first of all, thank you very much, Holger. Thank you for your time. Thank you for attending in this interview. I'm sure, as Lutong has also already said, that our students will learn a lot from your inspiring sayings and your inspiring life experience. And thank you very much. I hope you had as much fun as we had. And if there is nothing else than the thing you already shared with our students, I would like to say thank you and wish you all the best for the near and far future.
Thank you so much as well for the opportunity. Always great talking to you, and all the best to your students. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Holger. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.